James, good to have you with us. So I think we've had the 2-minute warning. We're expecting the Attorney General Merrick Garland to speak in a few minutes' time. But just give us the background of what has happened here and what we can expect the AG to potentially say.
Yeah, by way of a timeline, we have the discovery of documents in properties belonging to Joe Biden. Discovery 1 in a building in Washington, D.C., an office building, 10 documents. Discovery number 2, as you've just said, as we've just heard, was in his garage in Wilmington, Delaware, in his garage and in an adjoining room. So Republicans are saying that's extremely similar to a situation involving the man who preceded him, Donald Trump. He had hundreds of documents in Mar-a-Lago, and it took an FBI raid to retrieve many of them. Team Biden are saying, look, OK, there are similarities, but there are key differences. For a kickoff, Donald Trump resisted in grand style
Interrupt you, but as we can see, the Attorney General Merrick Garland has approached the lectern. He's now speaking. Let's listen in.
To Department of Justice regulations governing such matters. In keeping with those regulations, I have today notified the designated members of each House of Congress of the appointment. I'm joined today by John Lausch, U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Illinois, who conducted the initial investigation into the matter that I will describe today. On the evening of November 4th, 2022, the National Archives Office of Inspector General contacted a prosecutor at the Department of Justice. It informed him that the White House had notified the archives that documents bearing classification markings were identified at the office of the Penn Biden Center for Diplomacy and Global Engagement, located in Washington, D.C. That office was not authorized for storage of classified documents. The prosecutor was also advised that those documents had been secured in an archives facility. On November 9th, the FBI commenced an assessment consistent with standard protocols to understand whether classified information had been mishandled in violation of federal law. On November 14th, pursuant to Section 600.2b of the Special Counsel Regulations, I assigned U.S. Attorney Lausch to conduct an initial investigation to inform my decision whether to appoint a special counsel. Mr. Lausch has served as the U.S. Attorney in Chicago since 2017. Before that, he spent more than a decade as an assistant U.S. Attorney in that same office. I selected him to conduct the initial investigation because I was confident his experience would ensure that it would be done professionally and expeditiously. On December 20th, President Biden's personal counsel informed Mr. Lausch that additional documents bearing classification markings were identified in the garage of the president's private residence in Wilmington, Delaware. President Biden's counsel informed Mr. Lausch that those documents were among other records from the period of the president's service as vice president. The FBI went to the location and secured those documents. On January 5th, 2023, Mr. Lausch briefed me on the results of his initial investigation and advised me that further investigation by a special counsel was warranted. Based on Mr. Lausch's initial investigation, I concluded that, under the special counsel regulations, it was in the public interest to appoint a special counsel. In the days since, while Mr. Lausch continued the investigation, the department identified Mr. Herr for appointment as special counsel. This morning, President Biden's personal counsel called Mr. Lausch and stated that an additional document bearing classification markings was identified at the president's personal residence in Wilmington, Delaware. When I first contacted Mr. Lausch about this matter, he said he could lead the initial investigation, but would be unable to accept any longer-term assignment because he would be leaving the department in early 2023 for the private sector. U.S. Attorney Lausch and his team of prosecutors and agents have conducted this initial investigation with professionalism and speed. I am grateful to them. Earlier today, I signed an order appointing Robert Herr as special counsel for the matter I've just described. The document authorizes him to investigate whether any person or entity violated the law in connection with this matter. The special counsel will not be subject to the day-to-day supervision of any official of the department, but he must comply with the regulations, procedures, and policies of the department. Mr. Herr has a long and distinguished career as a prosecutor. In 2003, he joined the department's criminal division, where he worked on counterterrorism, corporate fraud, and appellate matters. From 2007 until 2014, Mr. Herr served as an assistant U.S. attorney for the District of Maryland, where he prosecuted matters ranging from violent crime to financial fraud. In 2017, Mr. Herr rejoined the department as the Principal Associate Deputy Attorney General. In 2018, he was nominated and confirmed to serve as a U.S. Attorney for the District of Maryland. As U.S. Attorney, he supervised some of the department's more important national security, public corruption, and other high-profile matters. I will ensure that Mr. Herr receives all the resources he needs to conduct his work. As I have said before, I strongly believe that the normal processes of this department can handle all investigations with integrity. But under the regulations, the extraordinary circumstances here require the appointment of a special counsel for this matter. This appointment underscores for the public the department's commitment to both independence and accountability in particularly sensitive matters, and to making decisions indisputably guided only by the facts and the law. I am confident that Mr. Herr will carry out his responsibility in an even-handed and urgent manner and in accordance with the highest traditions of this department. Thank you all.
Have you ever spoken to the President about this investigation, sir?
Well, we've been listening there to the U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland giving a statement to the assembled news media there, saying that a special counsel has now been appointed to investigate the discovery, the second batch of classified documents found in a property owned by President Biden. Let's bring our US correspondent James Matthews back in for more on this. He was listening in as well to the Attorney General there. And James, as we said, and as you suggested earlier, the special counsel has been appointed. Robert Herr, Merrick Garland saying extraordinary circumstances require a special counsel to be put in place to investigate this.
Yeah, extraordinary circumstances, indeed. The same extraordinary circumstances, really, that involved Donald Trump. And by association, that's why we have a special counsel looking into President Trump. Effectively, what's happened is that the investigation has been outsourced. The man you were looking at there is America's prosecutor-in-chief, the U.S. Attorney General, a man put into position by Joe Biden. Now, when it came to the Trump investigation, he appointed a special counsel for that because, in the interest of public perception, a perception that shouldn't interpret any bias in the investigation. So, a Biden appointee investigating Donald Trump when Trump announced he was running for president, that wouldn't be a good look for the Justice Department. Therefore, a special counsel was appointed. What Merrick Garland is saying here is that in the interests of independence, accountability, and those things being seen to be followed through, that's why he's appointing a special counsel in this regards. It's what Republicans have been calling for. They've been saying, look, if you have a special counsel, an independent investigator looking into Trump, then Joe Biden has to be held to the same standards. There has to be parity in the investigations because the situations, the circumstances are very similar. That's what Republicans say. Team Biden and Democrats say something quite different. They point out that in the case of Trump, he had hundreds of documents which he withheld despite repeated requests over many months, and it took a knock on the door by the FBI for him to hand over the classified documents that he retained. That's quite different, the Democrats say, from Joe Biden, who discovered some documents and very quickly, immediately, handed them over to the National Archives and kept the Justice Department fully informed. So there is that claim of transparency by the Biden camp. That will undoubtedly be tested by this special counsel, Robert Herr. Among the first questions he will ask, surely, are who put these documents there? How did they get here? How did they get there? What information did these classified documents contain? How sensitive was it? And how secure were the conditions in which they were kept? I know that already aides to Joe Biden, and these documents relate to his time as vice president. During the shift from the White House, the aides involved have been questioned about, the functions that they carried out and their movement of documents. So that's where the investigations are centred at the moment. Was it a practical error, unbeknown to those committing that particular mistake? That's where the investigations are at this very early stage. I suppose the worry for Biden will be that an investigation, can lead any number of places. We've seen that in the past with special counsels, independent counsels, investigating sitting presidents, Bill Clinton among them. But Donald Trump, his camp are cock-a-hoop. Bear in mind, he's facing a criminal investigation by a special counsel, staring down the barrel of a criminal trial. If that's the way that investigation proceeds, they are very strongly making the point that there are parallels here. But, we'll see how the investigations pan out. There was obstruction, or there appears, there are certainly allegations of obstruction when it comes to Donald Trump. Joe Biden's camp are making the point that basically it was an innocent mistake. And it's worth making the point as well that the crime, it's not a crime to actually be in possession of classified documents. The crime is unlawfully withholding them with the knowledge that you are indeed withholding very sensitive material that belongs either in the White House or at the National Archives.
And James, you raised that equivalence that's being made between the two situations for the current president and the former president. And I wonder how that equivalence is going down for supporters of each of the men. Are they seeing that as being exactly the same? And with this appointment now of a special counsel, how do you think that will play into the idea that these are very similar situations?
Well, I think in terms of the headline, there is a similarity, isn't there? Special counsel for both investigations. And on the face of it, there's no doubt there is a considerable overlap. But, in this country where partisan politics reign supreme, you have one side screaming blue, the other side screaming red. And in terms of the Republicans, Trump-supporting Republicans, they are saying this is exactly the same. You have a president in possession of classified documents, and if an investigation into Biden is going to be shaped towards an innocent mistake, then the same should apply to Donald Trump. In terms of Team Biden and Joe Biden himself, he said he was very surprised when he was first asked about it a couple of days ago. The word from the Biden camp is very much that this has been an innocent mistake. There are very few documents where he is concerned compared to what seems to have been quite an operation to retain several hundred documents. And despite repeated requests, telephone requests, subpoenas, Donald Trump held on to documents and resisted all attempts to get, to hand them over. And it took an FBI morning raid at his home at Mar-a-Lago in Florida to take them back. But the worry for Joe Biden will be any kind of investigation. I suppose an investigation, on the one hand, will bring everything out into the open and give the transparency that we still need in relation to the Biden documents. But, any kind of investigation, particularly at a time when there are many questions about Biden, his finances, his son Hunter Biden, the Hunter Biden laptop story, with that all in the air, it may be that he doesn't welcome the presence of a special counsel anywhere near him or his affairs. Remember, Kenneth Starr, independent counsel who looked into the Clintons. That started out, all looked fairly innocent enough, looking at an Arkansas estate agency deal in the first instance, but that evolved into an investigation that led to the Monica Lewinsky sex scandal, a sex scandal that shamed Bill Clinton's presidency. So, it's not great news for Joe Biden, it must be said. And of the two camps between Trump and Biden, it's certainly the Trump camp that at the moment are making most noise about this.
OK, James, for now, really appreciate that. Thank you